So, going to talk about Bruits de Voisinage, which is a law in France about noise and your neighbour noise. Um, it's quite interesting because I know that there are probably noise laws in the UK, and I also suspect that nobody does anything about it because the police just don't have the time in the UK to deal with um, difficult neighbours. I know that there's lots of TV programs about neighbour issues, and I think it gets really out of hand before maybe the police intervene, but it's not like that here. Um, the This is from my head. I did start to read it, but I have some memories of it. That between certain times of night, you shouldn't be disturbed by the noise of your neighbours. I think it's 10 till I think it's 8 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, I think it's 8 o'clock in the morning. So there should be nothing to disturb you overnight. Nobody tooting their hooter, nobody using some electrical equipment or outside chainsawing at 10 in the night. So you wouldn't hear your neighbour starting any machinery before 8 o'clock in the morning. And if you have people playing music loudly during the day and in the morning and overnight, if it's constant, and you can complain about that. And barking dogs, which has been an issue for us years and years and years ago when we first came, which took us a long time to effectively deal with because being British, we didn't go right to the heart of the matter, and we did all the things that we thought. Well, we did all the things we should do initially, which is to tell your neighbour your dogs are barking at 3 a.m. and it's waking us. And every morning, around 3 a.m, 2 a.m, 1 a.m, and eventually that really gets to you. So I'll talk about that and then move on to what we eventually did. But this applies to any noises or any disturbance that your neighbour is causing to you and your peace of mind and your peaceful sleep. La la la. We have Scrote. I will call him Scrote, and I do have bad feelings about him, and I don't care if it offends anybody. You want to have lived next door to this guy for 15 years, 16 years, and you'd feel how I feel. And when we first came, he had a dog called Roxy, who she wasn't chained up when we first came. She was in his yard at the front. It's just a yard. And she was sort of stuck there all the time. She wasn't allowed out. She didn't get taken anywhere. And he claimed to care for her, which he does with his animals. A lot of narcissists do that with their animals, is that they make a big show of, look at this, look at how lovely I am with my animals, but actually they neglect them when there's nobody watching. So Roxy was there when we first came, and she used to come to his gate because there was a gate there, and we'd stroke her through the gate, and she got all excited. It was probably the only stimulation she got. And then later on, he got another dog that he'd rescued. Fucking hell! I wonder where he rescued it from, because it's no rescue to go and live next door with Scrote in a yard full of dog shit. It really isn't. Anyway, his dog, who I won't name because otherwise if somebody did see this, they might put two and two together. His dog was a golden retriever, and chained up. So Roxy was then chained, and the other dog was chained so that they couldn't meet in the middle. And it got really silly, and the new dog would bark, and at night they'd be barking, and at 2 o'clock in the morning they'd be barking at 3 o'clock. And back then we slept in the bedroom at the other end of the house, which we chose because it's got such a lovely view. You can lay in bed or sit in bed with your cup of tea and you're looking down the valley. So we chose that bedroom because it was such a lovely view, and it was much closer to his yard. And in the early hours of the morning, I'd be suddenly jumping because the dogs had started barking, and that has a real impact eventually on your health, on how you feel. It's sort of, when you're woken suddenly like that, your adrenaline levels go up and whatever, and it's really not good for you, and it becomes quite depressing. So we did all the things we were meant to do. We spoke to him because back then we were talking to him and said the dogs are barking at 3. They're waking us. He suggested to Mark, "Well, get up and go and talk to them," because he wasn't there. He'd gone away. So he'd leave the dogs in the yard and go to his then girlfriend. And so he wasn't there, but the dogs were. So he told Mark, "Well, go and talk to them. Go and tell them to stop, like at 3 in the morning. We take responsibility for your dogs." So that didn't go down well. And we were going out there because we were getting really pissed off with the dogs, which is a shame because, they're dogs. They don't know any different. But, our feelings about him and the fact that they were waking us were coming out in how we felt towards the dogs, which were not really, it wasn't their fault. So that didn't work. So we went to the mairie and complained to them. And I don't know how many times we complained at the mairie, and I'm not really sure how many times they came to see him, or if they did, because I think they're all wary of him, because he's well known to be the only personality disorder in the village. I think it's probably more, but he's very well known throughout my environment. But nothing changed, when we did recorded letters. So we did all of the things that we thought we should do, and being British, we waited and waited for things to change, and they didn't. Very patiently, it didn't occur to us to go to the gendarmes. And then I was talking to people online, friends online, and I have a very good virtual friend who has been really good to us over the years, who lives, I don't know, probably 2 hours from us, an hour and a half from us. I've never met her, but she's really good on the law. She is a lawyer, and she was a trained British lawyer. So she's really helped us over the years with our Scrote troubles eventually, but I don't like to ask her. But anyway, she pointed me to the Bruits de Voisinage laws, and we said to her, "You need to go to the gendarmes." It's like, "Oh, well, go to the police because the dog's barking." And that sounds awful. We can't do that, la, la, la. But eventually we did, go to the gendarmerie and went in. And, it's all in French, and you end up, it's called, I can never pronounce it properly, it's called porte-plainte, which is making a formal complaint. And you give them your story and they type it all out. Then you have to read it and agree to it and whatever. So you make a formal complaint, a statement. And the outcome of that was that he got a warning. If you don't stop your dogs from causing disturbance to your neighbours, you'll be fined. And I think the noise stopped for a while. I don't know how he did that. The noise stopped for a while and then it started again. And now, having discovered that, you just go to the gendarmes, we went back to the gendarmes, and eventually he was fined, which was amazing. And actually that stopped it. That stopped the noise from the dogs. I mean, it didn't stop the other stuff that he was doing, because he's such an a-hole that he just couldn't stop himself from throwing other gauntlets down. But actually getting rid of the dog noise was just unbelievable. It was unbelievable to be able to sleep and not have that every night, that disturbance. So horrible stuff happened, I think, with the dogs. We think that Roxy got chained up in an open sort of shed thing on the end of his house in that yard, and Mark's convinced he heard her really crying, and and then we discovered that she was dead. Just completely neglected because he's not there all the time. He's got animals. I think he's got other dogs now. The other dog that was chained up eventually, I don't hear him call her name, so I'm assuming that she had at least one lot of puppies. And because that's the other thing he does is, they have puppies and then he sells them, and the puppies are born in an outdoor shed in a dirty old crate. It's horrible, all to make money. So it's quite interesting to think that, if we did have any problems like that, we could go to, I think we've been since, a year or so later, we went because he was going past, there's a bend on the corner of the house around our hedge, which even when the hedge is cut, it restricts view, and he planted the bloody hedge, so it wasn't us that put that hedge there. But every time he went round, he tooted, because you can't see round the bend. I mean, what we could do now, I sort of think, well, we could put one of those mirrors up, which we may well do. But he'd toot 3 times on the way round and 3 times on the way back. And when you consider he's in and out 5 times a day when he's here, that was a lot. And again, that was making me jump. And eventually we went and complained about that. And he said it was the hedge because the police, the gendarmes reported back to us that, it's your hedge. And we said, well, okay, but we're waiting for our guy to come and cut it, la la la. And he didn't stop. When the hedge did get cut, he didn't stop for a while. So it didn't reach the point where we had to go back and complain about it, because he did eventually stop. It's years ago now since he's thrown down any gauntlets, because we learned that you just have to stop picking them up. And that's really important when people are goading you, is that, you get into the game if you respond. So not responding is the best thing to do, and it's very hard to do that. I know, and I've probably spoken about it before, that before we had our wall built, our friend, whose name I won't use, also French friend, was out in the garden doing something out in our garden, and encountered Scrote. And within 5 minutes, our friend was back in saying, "Have you got a gun?" He, feeling so incensed by whatever the conversation was, and I can't remember what it was now, that he I don't think I'm hoping he wouldn't have shot him, but that's how incensed he was. And I've often been that incensed and sort of think, well, it's a good job I don't have any weapons, because he just absolutely pushes your buttons. So anyway, that's the law in France. You can go and complain at your gendarmerie. You can put in a formal complaint, and interestingly, things happen. And it's a good thing. But in the UK, it wouldn't, would it? Because the police are just too busy doing all the other stuff they do. And obviously, if I was living in Paris, I can't imagine that I would go to the gendarmes. If I was living in a big city, here where we are, we don't see the gendarmes very much. I don't imagine they're incredibly busy as like a city gendarme would be. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that I've just sent Mark, not sent him, but I've given him his orders, that he's been doing lots of research for months. He's stopped now, but he was looking at electric cars. And actually, because he's good at researching, he just looks at stuff, takes all the info in, writes it all down, makes comparisons. I can't do that. And I've told him that he should be looking at air source heat pumps or ground source heat pumps, and finding out all about that for us, for when we can afford to do it, because we have the wood burner in here, and in his room he's been running on low, which he starts at about, he probably hasn't lit it yet, so he probably lights it at about midday, a low, the gas heater, space heater. And I think he's gone through a bottle of gas in 2 weeks. And I don't remember, I wasn't with him when he bought the gas, but I know that it's gone up. I think it was probably, I don't know, 34 euros. when he bought it, and it'll be more obviously because everything's gone up. And we're burning wood and we're using gas, and I will be interested. I haven't really ever worked out how much it's costing us each winter, but that's quite quick to bottle in 2 weeks. So we need to be looking at our future proofing the house. We stupidly ripped out some of the central heating, so if we did put in a heat pump, which I say if we did, we will do one day, we'd have to put in a new central heating system, because some of the radiators we've removed, and the we took the boiler out, and the oil container, the oil tank, took out. The only annoying thing is the ideal spot for, as far as I can tell, the ideal spot for air source heat pump on the outside of the house will be backing onto what was our boiler room, which is an ideal room for all the pipe work, the compressor and the refrigeration unit and all of that stuff. Sadly, that wall backs is in his garden, so we have a part of the house that his garden is up against, and I can't remember what that's called now, but it means that we won't be able to put an air. I mean, he would sabotage it, but it would be such an ideal spot, because all of the pipe work is in there from the old central heating system, and it's an ideal spot, but we won't be able to put it there. Anyway, I'd be interested to know what your thoughts are about air source heat pumps, whether you think they're a good thing or a bad thing, and any other form of future proofing. And that's it, really. Let me know what you think.